Mong Phật thầy.
Okay, let's start the class then. Okay, let's move on. Let me share with you. So last time we talked about the let's see here. Okay, can you guys see my chart? Phillips, you can see your chart?
I can see the chart.
Okay. So again, that's what we call the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The first one is the body. The second one is the feeling. The third is the mind. The last one is Dharma. So we talk about this a lot. The body that relate to our breathing, our posture, how we sit, how we walk, we stand, body scan activities, any kind of activities we can do with mindfulness practice, like when we washing the dishes. While washing the dishes, we can be mindful. While we're driving, we can be mindful. While we're cooking, we can be mindful. So those are the activities that's what we can do with mindfulness. And anatomical part is about body, elements of our physical body, like the earth, the water, the fire, the winds, and the corpse. That's what happened into our body. So we talk, the next one is the feeling. We have good feeling, bad feeling. That's what we talked in last here. So they have pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling, the worldly one, the unworldly one, chaos. And that's our feeling here. That's our normal feeling. Good feeling, bad feeling, happy feeling, joyful feeling, and so forth. So last time we touched briefly about that type of feeling like to do something. For example, when we do this because of the habit and preference, like I like to drink tea every morning or evening. That you with the feeling, I have that feeling. Um, because of the physical reason, like we have the breakfast every morning, we have that feeling when we wake up. If you don't have breakfast, you feel that you may forget something. That's because of a physical reason that you consume the breakfast because of the emotion. Like you like to do something due to your emotion, like to watch the funny cartoon because of your emotion. He lives, you follow? Okay. All right, so may feeling because of something withoutness you want to do, like when we are not aware. When we're not aware of something that trigger our habit. So let's say after we go to work and we get back and somehow we just lie down to sleep, lie down to rest without any kind of awareness. Because that's that good feeling when we lie down, because at that time we may be tired. So when we lie down, we have good feeling. So in this case, it's just something that we feel, but it's not necessary that we want to do. We just want to have good feeling while we land out there after we work hard for a day. When we're not thinking about physical reason that causes the feeling, that's like we just run the treadmill automatically. Good exercise, that's all. Without thinking, without wanting to do, but we just do anyway. When we have the feeling that is motivated simply by an emotion attitude, like at home because of privacy, we just want to close our window so that people would not see through. That's a feeling we just follow without wanting to do, but just follow with the feeling. Make sense? Mm. Elizabeth, you follow me? Mm.
I think so, Thai.
And not feel both feeling like to do something and want to do. So when we have the urge that arises from a habit, a reference, or physical reason, like we like to enjoy the funny cartoon because feel good, and we want to do that too. We want to enjoy that because we have that kind of good feeling, that kind of wanting. So that's, and at the same time we want to do something with intention, like we want to write an email to our friends, our best friends. When we write that kind of email, we feel good about that email. We want to contact with them. So that's related to our feelings that we want to do something together with our feeling. When emotions or attitudes support a conscious motivation, like while we drive the car around, so we give food to the homeless. After giving that, we have good feeling about that. You make sense? So there's all kind of feeling there. Mm. And another one is want to do something like because habit, and we are mindful of what trigger that habits. We want to do meditation every morning, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because of habit. Because we know that meditation is helpful for us. That trigger our habit. That's good feeling when we do that. And so up to now, you build up that habit yet? If let's say if one day you don't do meditation, how do you feel?
Yeah, it's more, everything's not as slowed down.
I'm talking about the feeling. Here we'll deal with the feeling. When you somehow one day you're so busy of things, but you forget to do meditation, how was that?
Overwhelming.
How about feeling? Overwhelming?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you? Feel anxious. William, what do you think, William?
Yeah, not as clear.
Oh, you don't. You cannot hear me clearly.
No, I don't feel as clear when I
Ah.
don't meditate. I feel my mind just feels a little bit more foggy.
Yeah. So see, that's a feeling, right? Before we trigger our thinking. Phillips, you understand that? You follow?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, Steve, you follow us?
Yes, sir.
So you do meditation every day or what?
Yes, I've just recently started in about the last 6 months or so, but yes, and I can tell a very big difference on the days that I do not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How about Tom Thieng? Let's say because you're so busy, somehow you could not have time to sit. How was your feeling on that day? We can hear you, Tom Thieng.
Yeah, my feeling, I will, maybe, my mind is not calm enough to be able to think or do something properly. I feel that, I would try my best to meditate sometime while I'm not sitting down, like walking meditation or doing something that helps my mind to be mindful of something so that I can try to pick up something I'm missing from the morning sitting in meditation. dạ thầy.
Yeah, the next one, because of a preference and mindfulness, that preference means you want to eat in mindful way. You have good feeling when you eat mindfully. But if, let's say, when you drive the cars, right, and if you don't pay attention much about the driving, especially while you driving and you talking on the phone, you don't feel good for that. Right? You got that, Elizabeth?
Yes, thầy.
So that's why it's better to drive um, with the mindfulness, to focus on the driving. So again, that's helpful that we want to do things in the mindful way. We want to do something because of deliberated reason, like you're a student, you want to set up a schedule for the class, you want to rest up for the class. That's, you feel good after you rest up for the class. I'm talking about feeling here. Because you feel like doing this, like you cook for the whole family to enjoy. Like when you have family reunion, like Christmas holiday, Thanksgiving holiday, and New Year, right? You feel good because you cook for whole families. You want to do that, right? And so, how about Phillips? You have that feeling? You good cook?
Not really, but I appreciate when my family cooks and enjoy it together. Yeah, but I don't really cook.
How about take anything that you feel good when you do something for others, for your family members or whoever? Anything that make you feel good?
Yeah, I guess like buy them presents
Okay.
to make them more comfortable.
Elizabeth, anything that you do for others that you feel good of that?
I haven't done it recently, but in high school, oftentimes I would bake things like cookies or muffins and bring them to my friends at school.
Remember when you went to Houston, you cook, you make some kind of chocolate cake, right? Remember, for some people birthday, right? You and
I remember we tried and we read the instructions wrong, so somebody put a lot of oil in the cake. So that was very funny though.
well, William, when you provide good treatment to, I mean that when your patient get well, you will have good feeling, right?
Oh yeah.
How about if they could not get anywhere? How do you feel? I'm talking about feeling, not talking about thinking.
Yeah. I feel bad.
Yeah. How about you? When let's say when you give the test to the student, and let's say half of them fail, how do you feel? Yeah, even they fail, right? So it's happened to me too. Yeah. It happened. Sometimes the student they don't know anything, so I have to use to give them an app. If you don't do anything, but I feel bad too. Yeah. I want my student to be successful, but I have no choice. Yeah. How about Anand? When you work with somebody, right? When you work with someone else, right? When somehow, how could
Yeah, thầy.
some type of
I think the things I most I felt good the most for me is things outside work actually. It's the things I do for the communities or things that I do for the homeless or the people that in Vietnam where I able to help raise fund or to help them, whatever, even if $1 or $10 or a little gift during the new year. Those are the little moments, I would say, it really, the joy that I could give back is by most satisfying for me, more than the promotion or the things that I have done at corporate America. So that's my feelings.
Sorry, Alan. So when do you have good feeling?
Maybe. So maybe when you yell at somebody, you have a good feeling.
No, I mean that when you train them, the line dance, you have good feeling when they did it properly, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. When they're when everything goes to plan or they perform well, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's related to how we feel, right? So okay. And there's no way for us to escape from those kind of good and bad feeling, like William, like when you provide a treatment to your patient, right? Whether you feel good or bad depends upon how well they are, right?
Yeah, if I did not care about them, then I wouldn't feel bad if they didn't get better. But then I wouldn't feel good if they did get better. I probably wouldn't even do it if I didn't care. So yeah, I don't think there's any way out of it.
Yeah. Okay. So Felix, you have promises like when you provide medicine to the patient and they came back and say, "Oh, because your medicine, I get well," you feel good, right?
Yeah, I used to like sometimes they see me at like a supermarket and they recognize me and then they thank me. So that's
Yeah.
kind of nice because sometimes you don't know if they actually recognize you besides that
You feel
moment.
good about that. Okay, so that's what about our feeling here. And want to do something but not feel like to do. We have hesitation to eat in mindful way. So we want to do, but we don't have good feeling for that, and vice versa. You got that? You want to do, but you want to eat in mindful way, but somehow you have that hesitation. You follow habitual patterns, or all people they follow the habitual pattern. Let's say you tell your children, "Oh, sit quietly to eat," but they don't. They like the way that you tell them to do, but they don't feel good about that. You understand that? The urge to do it doesn't arise beforehand. Like somehow if we have not get into the habitual pattern of do meditation, so somehow we force ourselves to do, but we don't have good feeling with that. So it depends. So here it's talk about how we recognize our feeling. An urge to do does not arise from emotion. Like when to do the walking meditation, if we don't do frequently, we don't feel comfortable with that. We want to do, but we don't feel comfortable with that. That's what about the feeling. Okay, so let's skip this. And here, the next one is to be mindful. At top, the thing that we just discussed, that be mindful without feeling, whether it's good feeling or bad feeling. Let's say before we move on, let's say we so say when your patient say, "Oh, I got recover, right? I was I'm better now." So you have good feeling, right? When you hear that.
Yes.
But on the other hand, someone complain, "Oh, somehow the illness is still there." So how could you balance out good and bad feeling when you hear that type of comment? How?
Well, I recognize that it's not just about me. that if they do well, they don't do well just because of me. And if they don't do well, they don't do well just because of me. That I play a role, but I'm one factor in their healing. So I try to, in both circumstances, I try to acknowledge that, so that I'm not too into the emotion. So I'm not like, oh, I'm so great. Generally my thought is that osteopathy is great, and that I've done a good job at listening and being patient and being present. And so and the patient also has the correct factors that then they get better. So I think, just not tying it back into myself as the sole and most important factor. And then also being mindful of both ends, whether it's a good outcome or bad outcome, using the same, that same method of not considering it as my success alone.
Hi, welcome here. So we missed you today, meditation session. Are you at home?
Yes.
Okay. How about Elizabeth? Let's say when you paint some image, a picture, some of your friends comment, oh, it's really nice, it's wonderful. But other people, they give you negative comment. How could you maintain your mindfulness? How could you maintain your mind with those good and bad comments then?
I think I need to, and this is just, I need to work on it a little bit more, but we have to understand what constructive criticism is and what just being mean and making really negative comments looks like. So if I'm in a classroom and I'm with my fellow classmates and we're having a critique and we're looking at everybody's work as a whole, I have to keep in mind that if I'm getting feedback that I wasn't anticipating, I then consider, well, how much time was I spending on working on this project and whether or not I cared enough. And so sometimes having accountability for my work ethic and the time that I put in order to create a good piece or a not so good piece, I think it comes back to whether or not I put the work in, if I like the comments or I don't like the comments. But I embrace both sides because that's what's going to make you better at the end of the day. If you're constantly hearing that you're doing a good job, and nobody is willing to give you the truth, then you're never going to get any better. So.
Hey, Elizabeth, you know what you should tell them?
What's that?
Oh, I was just saying, you should tell them their eyes are broken.
What's that?
Their eyes are broken.
Whose eyes?
You know, if they say their art is bad.
I see. How about you? So, how about at the end of the semester, some students give you comment, right? Today?
Occasionally.
How do you feel that? How do you feel about, especially the negative one?
It somehow makes the semester seem worthwhile. Sometimes you have some bad quarters, and the students are frustrated, you get frustrated, but at the end of the year, you always have a few students that thank you, and it makes you feel like, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
So your school would not count on that type of student comments to recognize your performance?
Sometimes I do surveys, but
Guess what, Elizabeth? Can you type "rate my professors"? My name over there too.
You want me to make a review on you, Tai?
No. I'm talking about rate my professor. Type University of Houston. type my legal name, you see that. Yes.
I'll look to see what your students are talking about, Thich.
Mhm. How about you, Phillips? As a pharmacist, you work in at the front, right? You deal with the customers, right, Phillips?
In my role, yeah, I deal with some customers.
You
I
serve
feel like sometimes people do get angry, but I think I realize you can't control what happens or what the outcome is. You can only control what you are personally doing, or you're only entitled to like the process of doing it, and then whatever happens after is,
that's important.
I don't know, out there.
That's pretty important, right? You cannot control others, whether it's good or bad. The only thing is that we know, we recognize that we can control ourselves. We can control our emotions. We can control our feelings. That's what we can. Whether they say good or bad, whether it's positive, negative, whether it's constructive or destructive, that's their choice. It's out of control. Well, of course, how we do may affect you, the way that they comment, but somehow, sometimes we try our best, but they still give some kind of negative comment. Again, this is a choice. Um, so it's not easy, right, Ben? Right? They give you some kind of comment while you deliver some things for them.
Oh, you want me to tell a story of a negative experience?
Bob, if you want to, how can you handle that? Yeah.
Oh, well, I had a lady yell at me the other day because I knocked on her door, but I woke up one of her children, so and the child was screaming, and I said, I'm here with DoorDash, just dropping off some food, and gave it to her, and she's like, you woke up my children. So it doesn't happen all the time, and I just see it as funny, you know. But I try to be respectful and learn from, you know.
Yeah, that's whole mindfulness practice is about to make calm in a situation that we get good comment about comment. We know ourselves more than others. Is it easy? It's not easy, William. Is that need to have some type of practice, right, William?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, to maintain a peaceful state of mind so that, yeah, you asked about meditation and on days when you don't meditate. Yeah, on days when I don't meditate, I'm more likely to react to something my fiance says and get into some sort of little argument that's not even important. Whereas if I was in a different state of mind, I would have just let it go by and there would have been no problem. And we would have just had, an easy, fun time.
You can maintain that mindfulness when we say this and that.
I try to. I'm better at it now. I at least recognize it now, where I can at least pause, and not react to it. But it still stings, especially the closer the person is to you.
Yeah, that's why we learn. We recognize. Sometimes we couldn't recognize our own feeling, so it's better to recognize them. If we don't recognize them, we get lost, right? With the situation, with the conditions that happen to us. So that's why it's so important that whether it's good feeling or bad feeling, we try to maintain some sort of mindfulness. Of course, as human, we love compliment, right? People give good feedback. We love that. But when it turns to negative comment, that's a bit tough. It's a tough one. So that's why without meditation, it's not easy. Not easy to control ourselves. We can't control other people. We can't control how they say, how they make comment on us. But at least we can control how we deal with that type of negative comments. And at least you can check on that website, Great Way Professors. One of my students, somehow I didn't do that, but somehow she put I subtract 2 points from one mistake. I never do that. Well, that's okay. That's okay. What again? You know yourself better than others. Sometimes they may exaggerate, right? And sometimes they mm, may have some kind of understanding about you. So if we put in that kind of views, much easier for us to deal, especially when we are public figures, when we deal with the publics, like you are teacher, professors, doctor. It's not easy, like William, right? Especially dealing with the negative comment, it may affect to your business too, right, William?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, if it's for a good reason, it's a little bit easier to deal with. But the online reputation is very important nowadays.
Yeah. So if they says one, two, three of them, if somehow they try to put you down, they try to put your business down, that's a serious one, right? They say something negatively, and many people they may not know who you are, but then they get read that type of comment, they may stay away from your business, from your class. If they are not mindful, and those people, if they have bad intention, no, it's not easy. And so, how you deal with this kind of negative comments that affect your feeling and in business? How could you deal with them then?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's we human, we like to hear very good compliments, presentations or good analysis, reporting, so on and so forth. But when there's little comments about negative things, even feedback, I think it's easier to take like constructive feedback so that you can learn something. If it's meaningful, if it's helpful for you to learn, to not to make the same mistake or the same a better results, I'm okay with that. But if it's not true and it attack my character or my integrity, that is very difficult. Now, only recently, the last few years, I learned a little bit more about Buddhism. So I learned to not control, but I learned to recognize, like Phyllis is saying earlier, and others as well, that there are things that you can control, what you can feel, and you cannot control what other people are saying. And I let them have the benefit of the doubt. And maybe offline, I would come and talk to them. Hey, you mentioned this X, Y, and Z. And I seek to understand where they're coming from. In business, like you want to try to walk their shoes a little bit, see where they're coming from. And then maybe because of their perspective, they see something different. So I try to, take a step back, give them a benefit of doubt, go talk to them. And hopefully I learn something, or at least be in the same shoes so that I don't get too wound up with what my negative side of things. But it's difficult. That's business, but outside of work, I have a lot of situation where I learn to, I don't know, it's difficult. I learn to ignore completely and walk away. Or sometimes when you mentioned that if I don't do meditation, for example, this is the real example for me. Sometimes I don't have time, like Tung Ting mentioned earlier. Not forget, but I don't get into the habit of doing meditations. So deep down, my feeling is that I felt guilty. Actually, I feel guilty that I'm not doing it today. But the thought of thinking about it, I think it's helped me more. So, for example, even though I don't do meditation daily as I should, I feel guilty. But then when I have something happen to me, someone say something bad or good, I'm frustrated with something I didn't able to solve. Then at least I I kind of like a moment in time, like take your breathing slowly and anchor your breathing breath, like an anchor of meditation to help me to kind of slow me down, just walk away, just live the moment a little bit. Don't get too hang up into it, and then come back a minute or two later and that tend to help me settle down and start from square one. So it's helped me in that way. Thank you, thầy.
Sometimes, when people give us good or bad comments, we may have the good or bad feelings depend upon how they give us the comment. But if it doesn't affect to our jobs or our business, I think we can handle. But if they give some bad comment, right, negative comments that may affect our business is serious. And we see many people they sue each other because of that, right? So how you deal with that if they give false comment about how you perform, how you help your patient? How can you do that in a mindful way, in the compassionate way? How is that?
Well, to me, the thing that bothers me about that comment is if it's inaccurate and, if it's unfair. It makes sense that if I really didn't care about people, or I wasn't trying my best, or I was, or if it's like taken out of context. So the way I've responded, I've only really ever gotten one bad review online, and the person didn't even ever come into the office. They wanted to schedule an appointment with Lisa, who's a nurse practitioner, and she decided she didn't want to do primary care, and we hadn't taken her off the website. And the way that it was dealt with from between the receptionist and Lisa wasn't very good. Like, it wasn't clear to the person trying to call and schedule, and they kept calling and calling and calling and scheduling, or trying to schedule, and didn't get a call back in the amount of time they wanted one. So they went online and gave us like a 2-star review saying that the services we offer, the website's not accurate, the website's misleading, and that it's very hard to communicate and schedule with us. So what I did was, it's a public forum, so I just responded to the comment with, thanking them for commenting and asking like, hey, what service did you get? Can you tell us a little bit more so we can know how we can do things better? And they never responded. So I was thinking about it just functionally, like, if people go on and they see that bad review, and then they see that I patiently addressed it, didn't get angry, I didn't cause some big problem, or like, be negative in some way, I think people generally get that there are folks out there who just give bad reviews for no really good reason. We all know that there are people out there who are angry about stuff, and it doesn't take much to get them to kind of like lash out and try to make it hard. Because I've felt angry about stuff before and been a little bit harsher in the way I communicate. So I just try to take care of what's important as far as what will affect me or my business without escalating the situation.
That's a good lesson for you guys, right? Elizabeth, right? You're still in school, right? Some good about comment from your friends again. If you can overcome later on you run the business, whichever, you can handle those comments, especially the negative one, more effectively, right? More compassionately and understandably, right? Yeah. So
Tay, I do have a really good example of a bad comment that I got, not at my office, but when I worked at the school. Can I share this one?
Yeah, please.
So I taught one of the lectures to the medical students, and I had taught one the week earlier. At the end of my lecture the week earlier, I used a Jamaican accent to say a phrase. I said, "You must feel it, man." And nobody had any problem with it. People laughed. I got no complaints. The next week, I used an Indian accent because I was telling a story of my friend and my friend has an Indian accent. So when I said one of his things he told me, I was like, very good, William. No, I will look into it. So that's all I said. Like, I didn't say anything that made him seem foolish or made him seem like a joke. I just did my best accent, Indian accent, and the class laughed. But somebody complained directly to the dean anonymously. They didn't come to me. They went straight to the dean and was very upset by it. They felt like I was making fun of Indian people in general, and I was part of the problem with like people being insensitive and racist, and that they were so shocked that I would do something like that. So in that situation, like I can't. There's no room to defend myself. Like, I'm not a comedian. I don't need to be using accents up there. I thought I was adding some sort of enjoyment or some sort of like entertaining aspect to keep people awake and interested, but no, it's like it's not worth insulting someone or making them feel bad. So I just apologized. And then after I apologized, they accepted the apology. I still wanted to like be understood because I felt like I understood them, that they were hurt, but I wanted them to understand where I was coming from, but only after I acknowledged that, okay, yeah, I won't do that. I see why that's bad. But I talked to a lot of people about it, and people came down on both sides. Like, some people were like, I don't see, a lot of Indian people were like, I don't see any problem with that. The accent's kind of funny. But like, everyone's different. So as a teacher, we got to be careful to not offend anyone, because then it makes it harder for them to learn.
Oh, I had a way back, I can sympathize with you on that. Many years ago, I had a student in class, and one of the ways I keep my students engaged is to make up nicknames and talk in silly voices myself. Well, after a couple of weeks, I didn't think anything was wrong. I had a grown man show up at my classroom door threatening me. It was his brother, this boy's brother, came to me and was wanting to know why I was picking on students and if I would like to settle a score with him instead. So I was threatened, physically threatened, in front of my classroom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just had to take a step back and breathe and realize that, try to see where this guy was coming from. He was coming from a point of misunderstanding, and I calmed him down enough to make him leave because he entered the school without permission. And but yeah, I completely sympathize with you on that.
Yeah. I know. That's why even my position as a Buddhist monk, whenever I teach my students, I have to be careful. Most of the time, I would not joking around. Yeah, with one mistake to ruin your career. They recall everything, and even we don't have intention, but still, in their view, it's very serious, especially when it relates to the matter of religions. So that's why it's much better for us to remain neutral, whichever thing we talk. Yeah, so it's better to remain neutral so that they know our intention. We would not want to harm. Even most of the times, I begin the semester, I told my student that I'm here to teach you guys about Buddhism. I want to share with you about my experience and knowledge of Buddhism. I'm not here to convert you. I make it clear so that they feel comfortable with that. And so, and also in our conversation on the blackboard, especially the forums, yeah, I can let them to express whichever thing they say. But at least if relate to Buddhism, if they give some kind of misconception, I need to correct them. But most of the time, in that kind of conversation with each other, I let them go. I let them to have that kind of conversation freely without this positive negative. But again, when we deal with the public, we have to be careful what we say. Have to be serious too. Yeah. So it's not
Yeah,
easy.
thưa thầy.
Yes, and yeah.
I have a question. When we talk about this topic about speech, in Buddhism, I'm not sure it's the right forum to talk about this. Maybe sometime you can talk more about this topic. But when we talk about speech, we talk about right speech. The concept of right speech in Buddhism. Can you explain more of what this concept called right speech is in Buddhism, in context of what we're talking about here?
Okay.
Like right speech. What is right speech in Buddhism perspective?
Yeah. So let's say before we know what's been right, let's talk about wrong in Buddhism. So these 4 types of wrong speech, like the first one, of course, everyone know, lying. Right? We tell lying to other people. That's the first one. The second one is we have abusive speech. Right? We want to dominate other people, want to abuse them verbally. The next one, what they call divisive speech. That means we go to person A, talk about person B. We go to person B, talk about person A. That's why they have conflict with each other. Well, we create disharmony among themselves. And the last one is the hard speech. That means we yell at other people, like curse other people and so forth. So that's wrong. And right, that means we don't do that. You follow? And then?
Yeah, yes, I am.
So that's why we have to be mindful. We need to say something that make people feel happy, or at least we don't trigger their anger. We don't trigger their emotions. That make them feel bad or whichever. Or even we don't create the problems when we say something. We try our best to be mindful, especially in the public. So of course, in the personal level, yeah, sometimes we joke around with our best friends, good friends, but when we talk in front of many people, we have to be careful what we say. As teachers, as professors, as doctors, right? As leaders, right? One of our expression vocally is may affect too many people, right? Right? When you stand in front of the comedy, right? When you are supervisor,
yeah,
what your
correct.
Affect to so many people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's why it come back to the right intention. When we have intention to help others, we have intention to share. When we have intention to help others. So sometimes we may make mistake as human, but especially in the public, we have to be careful what we say. We have to put in wording. So that's why, especially my college student, they can have conversation online in the forums, Blackboard or Canvas. Of course, right? They have to follow the rules. That they cannot say, "Hey, bro," that's not the professional way to express yourself, to talk with other people. Like Philips, like when you work at pharmacy, right? You have some kind of protocol to follow, right? To deal with customer, to deal with other co-workers, right? What happens if someone step out of that boundaries? They will be fired or what? Philips.
Yeah, I think you might get a warning, but if it's really bad, then probably fired. Yeah, there's usually a lot of roles and so forth, but
like thân thiện, right? You have some kind of protocol, right, to communicate with each other at your company, right?
Yeah, most of the time, we have to follow the rules so that we need to do our best to keep the company in good shape, and then so that we have to make keep the production going, and we try our best not to joke around. It's better that we keep the communication in the proper ways so that we can work along together to show respect to the co-workers as well as the customers. Yes, more of that.
Yes, sir. Yes. Hi, everybody. Yes, sir. I'd like to ask a question in your view. So, in your view, say someone is attached to a bad feeling or a bad habit, how would you help them with that bad habit or escaping that bad feeling in your view?
How about you?
Me? I don't know.
Let's say smoking, right?
Smoking.
Let's say smoking. How could you help them out, right?
How would I would help them personally?
Is that right? That's your question, right? How could we help them to get out bad habits? Right?
Yeah, like bad habits or something like that. Yeah.
So how you deal with that?
How I would do with that? Well, I would ask them. There's this thing that I would say like be curious about your smoking. What does it taste like? What does it smell like? And then they'll probably say tastes nasty, you know, and maybe yeah. But yeah.
How about let's say we will talk about that addition later on, and when we talk about the feeling. Right. So we try to focus on the topic. Okay. So we talk about addiction later on.
Yeah.
So let's say when some of your friends they have bad feeling about each other, bad feeling about go to school, whichever. So how could you help them out then?
I think because I was thinking of like the answer to the previous question about like smoking and stuff, and I guess my answer would be to speak to them in the language that they're gonna understand and feel impacted the most by. So, like going back to the smoking one, some people will feel motivated because it's not good for their health. Some people may be motivated because it's not good financially by spending so much money on buying cigarettes and depending on how often you smoke as well. And so I guess going back to if my friends weren't doing well with things going on in their lives, I think sitting down and understanding where they're coming from and coming up with a solution that is worded in the way that they'll understand, and maybe it'll become a push for them to do whatever they can to make it right in the end.
Ben, you still there, Ben? Okay. So yeah, sometimes even we don't have intention to offend other people, but sometimes we may put the wrong words, right? So what do you think, Phillips, in that case? And after we say we feel bad about that, so how could we correct from that, Phillips?
I think even if someone feels bad and they don't know if they're ready to correct it, I think just being a compassionate person so that when they are ready, you can help them, or just making them feel comfortable enough to reach out to you for help, because you can't force someone to do anything. So I think if you yell at them or tell them it's bad or you're ruining your life, I think they will feel less likely to trust you when one day they are more ready for taking that step to improve their life. So I think just being patient, knowing you can't control someone to change, you can just maybe plant some seeds in their mind, and then when the time comes, they'll hopefully reach out.
You know, I was raised in Vietnam. Yeah, I came here when I was in my teenage. So it is, especially in Vietnam and China, the way they teach the children is that they try to train them or teach them to be humble to the point that, let's say, their children got an A on the test. The parent may say, wow, that's nothing. You need to study more. Of course, the parent intention is to encourage the student, their children to study more. But in the student views, I got an A. How could you say it's not good? But that is the traditions. To keep someone be humble. And of course, in the American system, it's quite different, right? When someone, especially some student, attend or got to that grade, yeah, you celebrate, right? You encourage, oh, you did a good job, yeah, do more. So I used to tell my followers, especially the Vietnamese Asian parents, you need to go middle way. Don't put them down or don't bring them up too high. You got the point there? It's not easy. This has become a tradition too. Right, William? Right, the way you raise your children, right? The way you raise your daughter, right? Sometimes you need to give them some good compliments, and sometimes you give them some kind of encouragement, but then mistake too, right? Even sometimes they may not feel good about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the case.
So, as a teacher, when you deal with those students, the one that may have some grade that below C, how do you deal with them?
When they make a C or something?
Yeah, when they get some C or below, what do you think? How could you help them to have good feeling when they have bad grades?
First thing I usually do is make sure that they haven't given up for future trying. And I remind them to have many more opportunities to demonstrate that they can do it, and that I'll be there to support them if they ever need me. So yelling and getting frustrated with students like that, it never works, and that's a common mistake that some teachers will make. They get so into the moment and they internalize the failure themselves. But you have just to remind yourself that you're there to teach, not there to accept the responsibility for failure.
So Phillips, you were raised here, right? You were born here, right? So
Yeah,
how was your parents' comment when you have good grade and bad grade?
Yeah, I think that's probably why I'm very hard on myself. So a lot of what their critiques and criticism has been ingrained in my brain as a child. So now sometimes when I do something, even if it's good, I will probably never be satisfied. So I think it goes both ways. Try to balance it a little bit because my parents are Chinese, and I think very similar to Vietnamese culture. Being humble is most important, but then sometimes if you push the child down too much when they're a child, it's very fragile. So then, I feel disappointed in myself very frequently or lower self-esteem. So I don't know. I think it's good and bad.
It's happened to you much, Elizabeth?
Uh, I think fortunately, because growing up, my mom was always at work, and so I was usually like at home by myself or with my brother. So if she were in my life more frequently, then maybe I would have ran into the criticisms or whatnot. But whenever she is present and she's there to see what I'm doing, whether it's doing artwork or doing good in school, then she'll compliment me and say that I'm doing good. So I think in this circumstance, because she's not frequently telling me that I'm doing good and I'm always doing good, and whenever I do hear it every now and then, it makes me feel better about myself. So I got very lucky, I guess.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, and you have children, and you recognize what we talk about, especially
Yeah,
age.
I listened to this. Yeah, I listened to this. I kind of remember. It's a joke, okay, but don't take it seriously. And there was a time when I told one of my child, for fun, because he's only 12 years old. So I told him, "Hey, Anthony, you know what's an A is in Vietnamese? That's an average. You know what's B is? It's below average. And then what's D is don't come home. And what's F? Find a new home." So it's it's kind of a joke, but then I learned from, because I'm Asian as well. So I grew up where a tradition where education and like Thai is saying, is very harsh and pushed and very competitive that way. So ingrain in you that you gotta be perfect. If you're not 100%, someone else will be 110%. So become that way. If you never be satisfied with yourself. But I realize that now when I have kids, and Anthony is only sixth, seventh grade now. So sometimes when he make one mistake on the quiz, he's like all anxious, and he sent me a text and said, "Hey, Dad, oh, I cannot believe it. I missed this. I'm at 99%. I'm still missing one." So I told him that I learned to, help him say, it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake. Learn from your mistake and try not to see the root of the mistake and try to learn from it. And it's okay to fail. So don't worry too much. So I try to, both my wife and I try to remember that and try not to push him too hard, because we both professionally, and we we climb the ladder of corporate America quite a bit. So I have to learn to kind of tone down a little bit at this point when he's still young. So when you talk about the middle way, actually it's a very good way to follow. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why it's a pet both way. When all people give us whether good or bad comment, especially the negative one, we have the tools to maintain our mind in the peaceful way, in the calm way. And when it's turn for us to give comment to other people, we need to be mindful of their feeling, whether it's their children, adult, or whoever, especially in the public, and even in close relationship, we don't know, right? Sometimes we think, oh, our spouse, they know us well, and we say anything that we want to, but it's hurtful later on. It's power up, and until they file the divorce, it's too late. Right? So we have to be careful what we say. Of course, if we have good time with them and tell them, oh, I have good time. So if I offend you or anything, please, yeah, please forgive me, so forth, so they understand. But otherwise, somehow, it's not be serious, but be mindful. Is it different, Alan? The difference between being serious and be mindful? What's the difference?
Serious seems to be more rigid. Mindful is maybe more contemplative, quietly, kind of observing.
You recognize, Elizabeth, you recognize the difference between be serious and be mindful? Which one is more healthy?
I think it depends on the person sometimes.
Okay. How about you, William? This is the last thing we discussed. What do you think about the difference between the be serious and be mindful? Which one is more healthy with your experience?
I would say mindful is more healthy because it's more dynamic. There will be times where it's appropriate to be serious. There will be times when it's appropriate to be more relaxed. So being mindful of what's going on allows us to be appropriate in different circumstances.
All right, so time is up. Thank you. This, I think, is very important, right, for us to recognize our own feeling as well as our people feeling, so that we can respond accordingly, especially in the mindful way. All right, so thank you. So see you then.
Ấy đã phật chào thầy. Thank you thầy.
Dạ, A Di Đà Phật, con chào thầy.
Bye.